Start Broadcast button on the GoToWebinar control panel. The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
All right, good evening. We'll go ahead and get started here. Similar to last week, I don't have any content based on feedback and questions I was getting this week or any changes that we're going to make. There's nothing on that front, but it was a little early in the season. I felt to start canceling. I wanted to make sure that folks that were keeping up on these for events still coming up had a good opportunity. Starting next week, if I don't have any content, we may stop having these follow-up calls with just week 6, 7, and the championships left to go after this week's events. And of course, Schoology and my email are still perfectly fine places to ask any questions that you may have prior to those week 6, 7 events or prior to championship if you're one of the CSAs that will be helping us out there. So if anybody has any questions, they can feel free to throw those into the question box, or you can post something in there that indicates that you want to talk about something. I can unmute people if there's something you want to talk about or ask a question that way. There's a question note here about 5-amp breakers in case 11. I doubt you'll ever see 5-amp breakers in the spare parts case. They're not part of the kit of parts. The spare parts case is primarily spares for kit of parts items and leftovers from kit of parts kitting and things like that. Other than the main control system items, most of that is leftovers from kitting and is provided sort of as a courtesy to teams. And 5-amp breakers aren't in the kit of parts, so I would be surprised if we ended up doing that at any point. So there's 2 questions, it looks like, from 2 Michigan events. I don't know if this was the same event or different events about LabVIEW USB cameras. I don't really have anything new on that. Other events have all been, I've been hearing mostly, if not entirely, success with using the 2017.2 update, potentially rebuilding the dashboard. But beyond that, like, there's unfortunately not anything that I or Greg McCaskill at NI, who works on that software, can reproduce or troubleshoot. So I've gone on previous calls sort of into the code and where the stream URLs are published. If the URLs look correct and the dashboard isn't able to connect, I guess I don't really know what to do to troubleshoot it beyond that. You could try running the dashboard out of source and see what kind of errors the TCP connection is throwing. You could make sure that you can ping the stream URLs that are showing up. And other than that, the same restarting robot code or the RoboRio, and potentially, if the URLs are not showing up correctly, hard coding the IPs. So there's a question about if the standard dashboard requires rebuild after the update. So to use the name URL, the update on its own does make a difference without rebuilding the dashboard for sure. I can guarantee that in terms of getting the name-based URL correct. What I'm not sure of, and I was never able to get to the bottom of, was if the dashboard included in the 17.2 update was rebuilt with a dashboard side change, which would cause it to use both of the URLs alternately. So basically trying the IP-based URL. And so because we're not sure of that, if you do have teams that have issues creating a new dashboard project and building it, or having one that you've built with the update has a potential of doing something. I honestly don't know whether that has any chance of changing things or not. There's a question on where you can find the 1702 update installation. It's the same place that the previous FRC update, the NI update suite, like the links are on screen steps. If you search NI FRC update, I'm pretty sure that's, now my search results may be skewed with all that Google magic, but it's one of the first few hits when I search NI FRC update. It's the 2017 update suite link is that 2017 .2.0 update now in the same place as the previous update. There's a question about why the driver station still says 17.1 after the update, because there were no changes to the driver station software. Like I said, the dashboard may or may not have been rebuilt to be changed, but there were no changes to the driver station in the update, so it shows the 17.1 version. We'll certainly review whether that's the right way to do things in the future, because I do understand that it has potentially caused some confusion with folks, but that's the logic behind it. All right, so there's something on here about barrel connectors coming loose. Potentially using the wrong size of barrel connector. Was there a change in the size of the connector between 2 years ago and last year? That's a good question. I think there was a slight difference between the D-Link connector and the open mesh, but that's me grasping at straws. I don't 100% remember there. That if a team does have the wrong size barrel connector, that would certainly, yeah, cause issues with the barrel connector staying either both with it falling out, but also potentially like vibratory disconnections and things like that if they have the wrong size barrel connector. Let's see if the kit of parts barrel connector, if the kit of parts checklist has the size, or if we just call it like radio power cable or something. It's less helpful. While I'm pulling that up, I had a LabVIEW team always show disconnected on the field monitor during the match, but they were still working. At the event, this was a won't fix, but I thought this was not possible with LabVIEW. I don't think that's really a programming language specific thing. The only way I know of to have a team show disconnected on the field monitor during the match is to, in some fashion, choke out the status packets. If the robot's still running, the control packets have to be getting through from the driver station to the robot. And the status packets had to have been coming back at some point, for the field to go green prior to the match starting. So when the match starts, the team is doing something, whether it's CPU usage on the Robo Rio or the driver station, could potentially choke those packets out. There may be some way of doing it on the network. I'm not entirely sure. After Justin and I had another one of the CSAs had a conversation about this weekend, he helpfully points out the field monitor will also show that disconnected looking yellow line if the team browns out, but that should be a transient issue, although I think that conversation was related to one team that looked like they were browned out for an extended period of time, which shouldn't really happen, but it sounded like it did. So there's a question here about what are troubleshooting steps to get the smart dashboard to open with the driver station. So the first thing is to make sure that the smart dashboard is on the computer. I think the most common cause of this is probably a team that has a driver station computer that they use specifically for the driver station, and they don't have, the Eclipse plugins on that computer, or they have copied just the smart dashboard jar file and put it somewhere that we're not expecting it. We expect it to end up in the same location as the Eclipse plugins would put it. So it's like C users, the username, wpilib tools, smartdashboard.jar. If the dashboard is there, Brad points out another big common issue is if you're logged into a different account than what Eclipse has been run on, you could either, if that's the case, you could try switching accounts to the one that the wpilib installation is on, or you can open Eclipse on the account they're currently logged into, and that will create the wpilib directory for that account as well. So that's a good next check there for it not opening. The next thing I would do is, try and open it by double-clicking on the jar and make sure that the smart dashboard launches it by itself. And if launching it from the file system works, then the most common issue I've seen is some sort of multiple versions of Java on the system, and it, for whatever reason, launching it from the file system and the way the driver station is launching it result in different different versions of Java. So those are the troubleshooting steps that I know of trying to figure out why the smart dashboard won't launch with the driver station. I am not seeing this cable I was looking for on the 2017 Kit Parts checklist at all, which means I'm probably just overlooking it somewhere, but that it's not going to be very helpful for showing the barrel connector diameter that I was looking for. So we'll go through some of the other questions here. So there's another note here about field monitors showing disconnected while robot still drives with a 255.255.00 net mask and static IP. Yeah, I don't know why the changes you made there would fix it either. That doesn't make a lot of sense. Oh, right, the cable wasn't in the tote, it was a separate item. Okay, so it's not on the checklists. All right, any other questions? Oh, there we go. Somebody found it on one of the checklists for me. 5.5 by 2.1 by 10 millimeter is the plug that we spec'd in the kit of parts. Oh, the separate items checklist, of course. There's one right there. So the kit of parts separate items checklist has a description of the plug that was provided in the kit of parts that interfaces with the radio. in case there are any questions from folks on, if they know what they have, you could check it against this. Obviously, if they know that what they have is connector from the D-Link radio, that's not super helpful in terms of verifying whether they match. So there's a question about calls in future weeks. My current thought, if people are really interested, they can post on Schoology or send me an email if they want me to keep doing this for future weeks, even if I have no content. I'm more than happy to do that if people are continuing to, sign in and get benefit from this. I'm not trying to cancel them because I don't have the time or I'm trying to get out of them or whatever. Just as the season goes on, when there are less and less people that have events left to do, a lot of times the usefulness of these and the questions taper off. So if I don't have content next week, I am currently leaning towards canceling it, but please send me an email or post on Schoology if you would like to see at least next week, if not one after week 6 as well. And I'm more than happy to, sign on and go through these questions for at least another week or two if there's interest and people are getting benefit out of them. Suggestions for troubleshooting a sticky fault on the PDP that will not clear despite multiple attempts and power cycling. So power cycling isn't going to clear any of the sticky faults on the PCM or PDP. The web interface for clearing them is finicky at best. So I think it's like a double click or triple click on self-test that's supposed to clear it. I normally just mash the self-test button like 6 or 8 times, like in quick succession, and that generally is pretty successful at clearing them. Have I seen any teams succeed at having code to switch between camera feeds? I haven't seen it or specifically heard about teams doing that. I've seen some posts on Chief Delphi where it seems like some people were having success doing that. Depending on exactly how you do it, you can end up with some latency. Like the most obvious way to do it with the C++ and Java camera servers results in the connection to the camera closing each time you switch. Like close the connection to the camera you're not looking at and open the new one, which has some latency on it. Let me pull up the link that Brad just sent me, which probably has the right way to do it so that you don't necessarily have that, which is on Screen Steps. And then I can show my screen here. I guess I'll go up a couple levels just to show where it's at. So from the main Screen Steps page, if we go into vision processing and then scroll down here to using multiple cameras under vision programming, so we have a couple examples here that talk about switching the camera that's streamed to the dashboard using a particular key for the smart dashboard. And this is, again, C++ and Java specific. This shows how to do it with that. I think with the default LabVIEW dashboard, I believe it would be a bit tougher to switch things around. You'd probably have to build a custom LabVIEW dashboard that was switching cameras, or play around with the streaming code on the RoboRio. So this page does talk about how the CS Core library, the C++ and Java, the C++ and Java library underneath, or I guess the C++ library underneath the C++ and Java camera streaming, talks about how it will turn cameras off, and tells you how to work around that if you're interested in not having those cameras turned off to reduce the latency of that situation when you switch cameras. So jumping back to the sticky faults, there was some clarification here on the proper method to clear sticky faults, cleared them on multiple talons but not on the PDP. And was there any other troubleshooting that could have been done? If the sticky fault condition is definitely, like the thing causing the sticky fault is definitely not present and it's unable to be cleared by the same method that you're using to clear sticky faults on other devices, I don't know of any troubleshooting beyond that I'm familiar with. I don't know if Omar would have any other suggestions or not, but that's all I'm familiar with. I don't remember if sticky faults survive through flashing firmware. That may be another thing that you could try, is reflashing the firmware. Oh, sorry, Omar Zreen from Cross the Road Electronics. Somebody asked who is Omar. But the two things are trying to clear the sticky faults normally, and clearing them through the web page and making sure that the sticky fault condition is not present such that the sticky fault is clearing but just immediately coming back. And somebody does point out that you could try clearing them from robot code as well and see if there's some odd quirk of the web page that's biting you. So that's a good suggestion. All right, any other questions? All right, well, thanks to all of you that were on the call here and asked questions or shared some helpful insight about those questions. And I'll get this recording posted. I probably won't get to, I think I'll probably wait until tomorrow morning to post the CSA reports that I've gotten in so far from this week. So I'll probably wait till tomorrow morning to do that. But you should be able to keep an eye out for those tomorrow. And good luck to everybody heading out to week 5 events. Good night.